I feel like when I just about had started my career, that time there were costume designers that created looks for individual actors from the point of view of their character, and yet kind of creating a sort of a fashion statement for the masses and people to follow. But the beauty of that time was
But this was for the screen, for on screen.
on screen. But at that point there was a beauty where they were specifically making it to that particular actor. I saw a lot more style coming out at that point. I saw a lot more individuality coming out at that point. Today, maybe the fact that there's so much exposure and there's international fashion available on your fingertips, I feel like some people have not been able to channel themselves more effectively than they would before, because before I think the outlets were far and few, so they had to really kind of think and feel and then kind of dress up, even if it was the way it was. I saw a lot more individuality then. Today I feel like there is just this feeling of finding yourself through fashion, which is what happened to me. And there came a point that this line somewhere got blurred, where what was happening in the movies and what was happening in the fashion industry kind of blurred. And that is the point actually I went through a metamorphosis where I discovered what is my personality, what do I actually like to do, because there's just too many various kind of influences. So I think for an actor today, what's most important is to, and also maybe our job is to play different characters. So we have the ability to change and become something every time, which is something new. But what's even more difficult is to still retain your personal character, to still retain your sense of self. And I think this is a constant quest for an actor. But I think what I have been able to do till today is make the choices I made and not be apologetic about it, because there are
A time not terribly long ago, and I think it's probably true to some degree even now, where fashion purists say Bollywood isn't cool, Bollywood isn't fashion cool, it isn't real fashion. And I mean there was a time, right, when they didn't want a film star on the runway because it would just take away the focus from the clothes. It was all about the showstopper, the clothes should do all the talking.
It's a very Namrata question.
Well, I will admit I did do some research with her last night. What changed?
Well, you're right. I think for a very long time, the supermodel was the supermodel and an actor was an actor. And they both stood their ground very firmly in their respective professions. And I think somehow we just went into, and I'll tell you something, Rajiv, we may like it or not, but I think in this country only two things really work: Bollywood and cricket, and shadis. So and Shraddh. Let me tell you, you can say that I'm following this trend and that trend, but if the Shraddh is on, dude, you're in for trouble. I can't tell you that. Okay, so you can have the best collection in the world, but if it's not the time for it, no one's buying it. I think somehow the supermodel got exhausted, and then we had, I think I always say the last of the supermodels were what? Candice Pinto and Carol Gracias and that lot, and I loved working with them. I loved having them in my clothes. But I didn't get to work with the OGs, as they say. I didn't make my debut by then. But I think somewhere they got exhausted of, the runway itself got very exhausting. That same banquet, runway, same backdrop, only this LED is changing in the back, and then your clothes are coming out one after the other. I think it just got exhausting for people. I always thought fashion shows were a parallel universe you take the audience into. And somehow we stopped doing that because just the frequency of shows, the number of shows got more and more and more. And then suddenly every design house and designer started to wonder, okay, how do I grab more eyeballs? And that's where Bollywood stepped in. And then suddenly now it's relevant also. But I think that most of the time designers are mindless about their choices in Bollywood. It's a very, who's available in what rate.
That's right.
And who will fit my clothes and who's going to have more social media followers, and I will take that person. I think that person has to be an expression of what your brand stands for. And that is lost.
So take us through the campaign that you just did with Kareena. It was a smashing campaign. Why was she the right person? What was the thought behind that? And what did you do for your business?
You know, she was the right person because nobody that I spoke to, like Tamannaah said, if you want to make the worst mistake, ask everyone. So I asked around and everyone said Kareena is not, you don't think of her as the bride. And I said, that's why Kareena will be my bride. And I am very into, I like working with actors who are also incredibly powerful human beings, who have something to say in their personal life as well. Because I think that actors' lives don't stop on cellulite. They always carry forward. They become icons. You want to live like them, dress like them, eat like them. And I want to do all of that like Kareena. She makes me aspire to wear different hats, just take on different roles. And there's so much ease. She's so comfortable in her body. There was not one question about shoot me from this angle. This is my better side. I look better, like nothing. It was just, I'm your muse for the day and you do with me what you want. And I think at that stage in her career, where she is, she could have very well commanded a room and said, you shoot me, I call the shots. But I think for me it was important that I like the human more than I like the actor. And that the human resonates with the people who buy my clothes. We're not a brand that is overly commercial in that sense. We've always been a little bit niche. We do things slightly off-center, like I say. And Kareena is off-center, but yet she's the center of everyone's universe somehow. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, when did Bollywood become fashion cool?
I think it's always been. I just think that we haven't given the association between Bollywood and fashion enough credit. I don't know why they've been into parallel universes because they have such a symbiotic relationship. I don't think Bollywood can survive without beautiful clothes, and I don't think fashion should ignore Bollywood at all. Simply because movie stars can sell snow to an Eskimo, and can you imagine if Emporio Armani said, I don't want to dress Richard Gere for the Oscars or whatever, we'd have no red carpet at all, And I think now, designers have come to a point where they will do anything and everything to sort of dress any movie star, whoever's available, whoever they can afford. But other than the red carpet and other than dressing up people for events and for Instagram, the relationship that costumes have with cinema is always cinema itself, right? So I don't think that the two can be or should be thought of as independent of each other. They're very, very interdependent, I think.
So to all of you, does fashion influence films or do films influence?
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
I think films influence everything.
In this country, at least, right?
In this country, they do, and it's probably a thing of the West where you have both sort of going hand in hand. But I think fashion somehow, and I'm talking about the current scenario and the current the boom of OTT and everything. I think fashion has become a little bit more of a front runner only because it's kind of like a mirror to society. And you can really tell what a society is feeling going through what the women are going through in society, how they're feeling through the way, you see fashion brands dress women and the way you see them style people. And we've become a lot braver. Fashion's become so brave in this country. It's no longer just about a certain look. It's much braver.
Also, it's been given credit now, which it wasn't given earlier. I think the National Award for Costume Design is not a very old thing. It's probably just 10 or 15 years old. And I think fashion was not taken seriously and costume was not taken seriously, but it's such an important part of the movement.
I think as time elapses, whichever medium is the most strongest is going to slowly and steadily change the way we consume fashion. Fashion was very much a part of Bollywood, only that we were creating it differently. And of course, the best of costume designers were exposed to fashion all over the world, and they were bringing it to us, and we didn't even know about it because we never had those books to read, we never had runway shows to watch. So how we were watching their interpretation of fashion was through movies. And then the moment technology moved and we had exposure to everything that's going on in any part of the world, slowly that kind of became together, and now it's just, it's exploded, I think. There's too much. It's really, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, and I don't know how to take yourself away from it, because it's like you love watching it as well, and you should also not watch it so you can create something of your own. So I don't know, and maybe it's a good question, it's a good Masaba question. How do you, when you look at so many things that exist outside, how do you go back inside and create something new out of that? I mean, where do you get the inspiration from? Because as creative people, we need something, some food for thought, some food for creation.
Some silence.
Some silence.
Some blackness. No, but I think, to be honest, we're not really inventing the next pair of jeans. I'll tell you that, I'm very honest about that. Nor am I inventing the next white shirt, which everyone's going to wear. There is a template. When it comes to bridal, there's a template. When it comes to ready-to-wear, there's a template. When it comes to India, I mean, the A-line kurta is the template, whether we like it or not, And we can say fashion this and trend that and this forecast and that, but at the end of the day, the A-line kurta with the legging is the A-line kurta with the legging. It's like couture for this country. We love it, and Indians love it, and comfortable fabric, So I think it's tough to. For me, it's very hard because I'm I'm very active on social media. And I sometimes find it so hard not to be constantly influenced by something. And I think that, is this the way things are going? Then I may as well follow their lead. But then I do have a little fun. I have a little cocoon where I go away, and that's where I have my fun. And that's where I don't make any money off it, and I have my fun. So yeah.
Now, I want to take off from something that Namrata said, and I want to ask you, Tamannaah. She said costume is such an important part of Bollywood, of film. And it's true, isn't it? I want to get your sense as an actor. The designer and I mean, how much of what you're wearing, what your character's appearance is going to be, and I largely mean costume, becomes your in for understanding that person that you're going to be playing. Is costume a big part of helping you become that character? Understanding what she's going to wear, is that a great way to sort of figure out who this person is and how you want to play them?
So nowadays how I do it is I first try to figure out what I think the character is, and then I try to figure out how would this character dress. And then there are these points where we talk as much as possible to the costume designer on board that project to actually create something that is what the character we think would be. And somewhere, it has to feel natural to me as well. If I'm playing that part, I have to make it my own. And I have always firmly believed the moment you walk onto a set with that costume and whatever that get-up is, I think if you get it right, I think 50% of the battle is won. And then, of course, you can enhance it with everything, your heart and soul and your blood that you put into it. But I think 50% of the battle is won if you get the look right.
So, have you done films? Do you design? Do you ever work on?
Listen, let's not talk about it because
Rather forgotten.
It's a bit traumatic. But I'll tell you my biggest regret in life is, and I only have one regret because I don't regret anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's I couldn't do Mr. Bhansali's Ram Leela. I was offered to do costume for that, and I couldn't do it for various reasons. And it is the single greatest regret of my life. And at that time, it was meant to be, I think, Kareena and Ranveer in the lead, and we got down to it. I mean, we started thinking of let's go to Kutch and get the costumes and the fabric and this and that. But it was my greatest regret. And also I think I'll never forget that phone call. But no, I never did film after that. I don't think that I'm cut out for it, Rajiv, to be honest. I see how costume designers go through the process of a film. And I think you can either do that and have a very strong team do that, or you can run a brand in a label. And I think I'm cut out to run a brand in a label.
Tamannaah, can you talk about sort of costume in film, in modern Hindi cinema, and how that's evolved? I mean, you pointed out, and quite rightly so to me yesterday when we were chatting, that the first Indian to ever win an Oscar was Bhatia Masaba, and you attended her an exhibition of her archives recently. Can you talk about the evolution of sort of costume in Hindi cinema over the last maybe 25 years, if you like, or longer?
I think it's come into its own, in a very strong credit. It's really part of what is. I mean, Bhanu, unfortunately, I don't even know how many films she must have done, hundreds of films that she styled, and for everybody. But she was forgotten. She was pre-internet. By the time the internet came about and by social media came about, by the time the fashion industry was sort of born in India, Bhanu was retired. I think her last film was Swadesh, right? And but now I see so many people who want to style for films, like Riya Kapoor, who I'm a big fan of. I mean, she's a great producer and a director and a fabulous stylist too. She has a film coming out, and all her films sort of are so playful with their costumes as well. And I cannot imagine giving her brand. I would have done it for you. I've totally taken your name. I can't. I mean, I think it's one of the most beautifully styled films, Gonzalez, Ramlila. For me, also being a fashion sort of writer, it's such an important part of a movie experience to sort of enjoy what the characters are wearing, enjoy how the film is styled. And I find myself enjoying a lot of cinema that may not be a great story in terms of conflict or resolution or whatever. But if the movie stars look good, if the actors look good, I'm happy, and I don't think it's polite to sort of tell you which these films are, but so many films today take their costumes so seriously as much as they do their cinematography or the lighting or something like that. And I think that's really integral because, I think styling a film is now a prism, costume is now a prism. It's a new way to sort of approach cinema as technically superior cinema. And I was talking to Vidhu Vinod Chopra a couple of months ago just before his amazing 12th Fail release, and we were of course talking about costume and how he's done it, and most of his characters are very, dressed as normal people are. And then there was a film that he made, one of his oldest films, I don't know if you remember it, Khamosh.
Yes.
It's not available digitally, but I recently saw it at a film club. And not only were the actors at the time wearing their own clothes, Tamannaah would have been very happy, but they also had their own names, like Soni Rasan plays Soni Rasan, and Shivara Azmi plays Shivara Azmi, and I think Amol Palekar is also himself. Of course, he's a murderer, which is unimaginable. But imagine from that to where we are today, to the glamour that costume sort of brings cinema, to the realism it sort of brings it. And I think actors today are not just, actors, they're also public figures in the age of Instagram. And Deepika Padukone is worth 500 crores, and I don't think all of that is from, her acting. A lot of it is, from her campaigns. So I think looking good and dressing for the part every day, whether you're in the gym or the airport, is such an integral part to the movie starting today.
But is it exhausting, Tamannaah?
Well, it's exhausting if you don't enjoy it. So the idea is to start doing things that you enjoy. The moment you start enjoying, like for me, there was a phase where I wanted to dress to the airport. But then there are days I don't want to dress to the airport. There are days I want to wear just a kurta and go, and I do that. Because I feel like your mood is actually a great way to even get inspired. Because I feel like sometimes when you don't have anything in mind, sometimes you come up with something really creative. And I have many a times discovered things when I've been in a lot of constraint. And I feel like creativity comes out of constraint. where you don't have the things you need. So I actually use that as a food for whenever I want to dress up.
You know, Masaba, you're an actor as well now, and a pretty good one. Both in the show, Masaba.
I would work actors more.
What is that like? I mean, do you call the shots on what you wear when you're on screen?
Listen, that was really hard not to do. Okay, because I just feel like it was modern love. When Masaba season 1, I remember I was like, should I be saying that cushion shouldn't be that color? Is that my department? No, it's art. And then someone screams art, you know? And then something else happens. And I'm like, wow, there's so many people just to move a cushion or whatever, you know? On the fashion piece, I did not get involved, and that's the only advice that I asked my mother for. I said, you know, is this my business? She said, no, not at all. Stay out of it. Let people do their job, you do your job. On this set, you're an actor. So I did that, and I had a great time. But I remember in season 2, I wanted to upgrade, you know, everything that we did, everything from the lighting to the set, the costume, everything was just a step up, because I don't think that season 1 was 100%, and very openly calling that out. But I remember in season 2 I said, let's just get an upgrade. And we did that, and we had a lot more fun with costumes. So a lot of even the other cast was much better dressed, and I think we learned because this was a new format. On Modern Love, I think that's the first time, and I agree with what Tamannaah said, where 50% of the job of an actor is done when you are dressed to the T, you know, for that part. And I remember in Modern Love, I was playing this girl from Thane, would you believe it? And I was supposed to have like one pair of sneakers and like loose jeans and this boy shirt on top. And my hair was in a ponytail. And I was wearing this liner, you know, that when call it the mummy liner, you know, it's just like, it's thick and it doesn't do anything for anyone's eyes. You know, I'm into the winged liner situation. And I remember telling the director, I said, this is not me. He said, yeah, exactly, this is not you, you're not playing yourself, you're playing a character. And that's when I understood the power of how when you dress a certain way, you dress like the character, it does so much of the job that dialogue even cannot do, you know. Your body language changes, the way the chemistry with your co-star changes, everything changes. And I remember I said, can I just have a little bit of a flick? Can I just have a little bit more contouring? He said, no, you can't. You're a regular girl, you can't do all of this. So I really believe in the power of costume to do a lot of the storytelling and introduction for a character before the character can even speak a word. And it's very powerful.
Tamannaah, what happens when you're in, I don't want to use the word conflict, that's a strong word, but in disagreement, the way that you see this character might be a little bit different from the way that your director does or your costume designer does, and the disagreement is over the visual element of how this character is going to look. What tends to happen? You also bring years of experience as an actor. Is your voice heard as an actor?
I think today, yes. But what I like to do, and I love doing this with my team, and as you know, Rajiv, films will always be teamwork. Whether we like it or not, it's not one person's perspective that's being put out there. It's one person's vision, yes, but there are lots of different perspectives, energies that come together to create someone's vision. So I think today's filmmakers are a lot more aware that an actor is actually going to make that character his own. So I do have times where there's a disagreement, and whenever there is a disagreement, what I actually do is, like for example, the skin tone that I have. Recently I was supposed to do a look test for something, and they wanted me to try a warmer skin tone. Which I was very happy to explore because I've done it in films like Bahubali, I've done it in films, a Tamil film called Devi. So I've done it a bunch of times. And because I do believe one must fully transform when a character demands it. But even span of what, Bahubali, what, 7-8 years ago? You know, the digital, the way the digital film camera is capturing us today, it can literally see the pores of our skin. So if I am wearing something that's like a layer on my skin, it's going to look synthetic. It's going to look like makeup, and that's a layer between the audience and me. And that was how I felt about it. But I truly feel because this is a teamwork, we need to make sure that everybody feels the same as we feel. So I went through the process of applying that. Then it was my director himself was like, I don't think this works. So I feel like in films we either convince the other person or they get convinced. And when you know you're saying something that's true and strong, you stand by it and you fight for it. And yeah, and hope it. And at the end, the film should work. After all this drama that we have put through, the last thing that we're hoping is this movie and this character is liked by people. So that's the main goal actually.
Masaba, when you're dressing an actor, it could be for public appearance, it could be for a campaign. Again, are you trying to find what in your sort of atelier suits their personality? Are you trying to get them to be a little brave? What is the push and pull when you're working with actors?
Well, I think because they're stylists for pretty much every actor today, I think it first starts with their vision of the actor that they're styling, and then you sort of go down into okay, what event are they going to, and are they going to be comfortable in this for many hours, or is this something that's just going to be a quick photo op and out, I think it really depends on that. What I do find is that sometimes there is a gap between what the stylist and the actor want, and I always go the extra mile in the way that I say, I think you should give this a shot, because an actor could be looking a certain way. Or sometimes when I'm designing a piece, just recently I was designing something and I just said, this has Alia written all over it. And I just thought of that. And I don't really dress Alia that much. So I think what happens is that you always find pieces that suit a certain personality, but there is that, first there's the stylist assistant, and then there is the stylist, and there's a brief. So I think that's how it typically works. Having said that, I think an actor does have a mind of their own. Like even with Tamannaah, every time I've had a conversation with her, she's always very clear about the color. For example, like she's very clear about what color washes her out and what makes her skin really come out in that sense. So I think we always know. Sonam is something like that as well, who really just knows exactly what she'd like to wear. But there are some people who are very, very happy to just go with what the stylist will say. But yeah, there are pieces that I see and I just think that this has this actor written all over it, and I actually sometimes just keep it away and I don't give it to anyone else because I think it will do that person justice. And if it doesn't, that's fine. But I think that yes, every actor in our country does have a very strong personality, straight from the top all the way down. And I think that they all know their bodies so well. Even someone like Kareena really understands her body and its strengths, its weaknesses, everything, and she's very happy to be clear about that. Yeah.
Namrata, let's talk about the red carpet, which has become a multi-million dollar industry in itself, hasn't it? From the time that we were sort of cub journalists. Tell us what the sort of the pressure and the importance of red carpet today, and then we'll ask them, the pressure that's on them to light up the red carpet.
I mean, I'm sure there was family stars, right? I mean,
in which I was dressed up in a gown where it was so tight that my stomach started to hurt and I had to leave the event and I had to go. So, as actors, I think we're always trying to put the best version of ourselves, because somewhere we realize that just like when I was a young girl, I got inspired by a film actor, there'll be somebody out there watching me and getting inspired. But that particular night, when I wore that outfit and I literally had a stomachache and I had to leave the event because of my tummy being upset because of how tight and I could not breathe, I decided that very night that never again will I do this. And never again would want to put another girl through that feeling that she needs to wear a dress that tight that she can't wear. But I think that's the journey. We all need to make that journey where in the pursuit of putting our best foot forward, instead of crumbling under that pressure, we have to realize from that pressure that what is it that actually matters, and what actually makes you feel good and comfortable, and what is the standard that you want to set for people, because the standard of beauty is just, sometimes it's bizarre and it's not, realistic to khair hai hi nahi, but not even about realism. I'm saying it has to be human. Let's just get that part. So I think that's what I'm aiming for today. I'm definitely in a place where I feel like a red carpet is an opportunity for me to have fun and dress up. And yes, it is literally, it is pretty much, giving an organ away. That sort of expense is needed for a certain day. But I guess I look at it like a business, because I feel like as actors, like how she said, today if you are in the fashion industry or if you are in any way associated with it, it's a part of an investment into your job itself. I remember when I was a young girl, I didn't have the money, Rajiv. I was very, very young. I would have to take it from my parents. But there would be no budget for costumes, for film. I've taken my own costumes and I've gone and shot songs. So today as an actor, yes, it's hard, it's not possible for everybody to do it. But if you are in the position to do it, I think a smart business person or a smart potential entrepreneur will always think about, how can I put into my own work, because I am my own work. So
honestly, Rajiv, I think do what you can with what your means are. I really believe that, and I think do it more from the point of I think it's going to be hell for everyone's mental health to begin with. To see or to match up to the standard of looking a certain way and having a certain body and having certain hair, makeup and jewels all the time. I think I worry about the next generation, because I think that they're only thinking of how do I have the money to get to this. It's scary. How do I live up to this image that I have created for myself on social media? Do it like a job, detach yourself from it, and don't get emotional about it. अगर दिमाग खराब हो जाए, आपका दिमाग खराब हो गया ना, तो रेड कार्पेट क्या फायदा है? What's the point? Why would you want to do anything that you don't have fun doing? Why don't you enjoy it? And I'll tell you, I was this close to my mind just going bonkers. Literally, my mother has pulled me out of it, because she said, do you really need hair makeup? Like, you didn't brush your hair as a kid, you don't know how to brush your damn hair, or put on lipstick. So I think it's, when I can do it, I do it. When I don't, and certain days I don't have the energy, Rajiv, to finish a whole day's work. I have about 370 people in my company to deal with all of that, and then come back and sit in a hair makeup chair and get into costume and then and get acidity because of a tight dress. I can't do it, and I don't do it. Some days when I can, like today, I really wanted to wear a sari, and I pulled out my best sari, from way back, and I said I'll dress up and I'll come for this. But days where I don't feel like it, I don't do it. I never push myself beyond a point where I know it's going to ruin my mental health. That's the most important thing for me. It's okay. I won't be the coolest thing for 1 week. It's fine.
It's good advice. I'm going to open it out for questions in a minute, but I thought we'll lighten up a little bit. What's your most embarrassing fashion faux pas that you've committed, to each of you?
Wearing white lingerie under a black dress and then being packed with flash.
Were you a sport about it when they dug into it?
Yeah, I think I was. But this was pre social media I don't know how I would feel about it now. Maybe I wouldn't do it, obviously. Well, I hope I've learned. But yeah, I think I was quite a sport about it.
Namita, your story?
I mean, so many to mention, I think. But I'm always the most underdressed person in the room, not to be, but otherwise.
That I will take that honor today.
Today that honor belongs to you, Vasan. You should have worn a jacket. But yeah, I think I need to dress up a little more and I would be much happier if I did.
Okay. Tamannaah, your story?
Too many, Rajiv, too many. And it's all documented. I started work at 15, so people have seen me grow up from 15 and 34 today. There's enough evidence of how terribly I failed on the internet. All you need to do is Google me. Yeah, but I'm really proud of it now. I just feel like I've come such a long way. And sometimes when I'm having a low day, I'm actually looking at those images. I'm like, itna to kharab nahi tha. I'm like, ye to theek hai.
It's an interesting point I want to ask all three of you. The thing about films and fashion and any form of art is that, does it hold up when you look back? And I know this because we look at films and I look at Dil Chahta Hai and I say, it holds up. 20 years later, it still holds up. What is important? Are you thinking about that when you're creating fashion, when you're creating a look? Is it going to hold up? Because I look at old films and I really think of Dil Chahta Hai. The fashion sometimes isn't holding up in that film. There's this one song, Koi Kahe, it's a disco song, and I'm like, I can't believe they wore that stuff. So what is? I don't know. I mean, like a lot of stuff actually. Go back to the 80s. So 80s would have blurred. We'll just forget the 80s. Then everyone was bad in the 80s. A lot of 90s stuff also. You look at people like they wore that. That was okay. Are you conscious of that, or is that just way too much pressure to take on? That what are they going to be thinking 20 years later?
For me, I think it's cyclical. The whole 80s and 90s pretty much came back a couple of years ago with the oversized jackets, now the big hair, thanks to Miley Cyrus's back, and it's so like I woke up like that, But I don't think where fashion independently is concerned, it's meant to be sort of, it's meant to be cyclical, like it's meant to have new things and all of that. And of course, we do have the idea of heirlooms and things that are classics and that stay forever, like the black dress or Audrey Hepburn and Edith Head. We can't talk about cinema and costume without talking about Edith Head. She is she's the woman to have won the most Oscars ever. I think she's 8 or 9 or 10, and nobody sort of matches that. And of course, she's a costume designer. But like the black dress, for example, and she dressed Audrey Hepburn for Roman Holiday and Honey Face, Breakfast at Tiffany's, all of that. So some classics sort of remain and never go out of style, and that's really beautiful too. But I think it's cyclical fashion where you can have fun with things, where sometimes it's trendy and sometimes it's just classy. It's also fun.
I did a song last year called Kavala, which people loved on.
It was a rage.
People loved it. Yeah, the curly hair. So there were two kind of women who came up to me. One was someone middle-aged, and she was like, I'm really thankful to you that I'm feeling that, it's good to be curvy and it's good to, be a bit chubby. And I did not till that moment realize that according to her, I was chubby in the song. I thought I was just fine. But it was nice to see that Indian women are curvy. And if there's one thing that I would really like to encourage through the way I dress today, is to embrace my curves and to make women feel great about it, because people want it, and if you have it, I think you should just flaunt it, enjoy it. And then I had a very young girl who had made a reel on the same song, and she was like, I went and I bought the same animal print fabric and I got the same color and I made that and I got it made from my tailor and I did this reel, and she was showing me the reel. So I was like, that's what's happening right now with what as actors we're doing. Someone that young is getting influenced in terms of ideas. She curled her hair, she did exactly what I did. And so that's the influence we have right now. So I think the idea is to enjoy yourself and just see the magic happen, because somewhere or the other, if you do something heartfelt, it touches people.
I think when I'm creating, Rajiv, I definitely think about, well, I think things have changed actually for me, I have to say. When I started off, it was more about, is the song trend or is this something that's going to be cool for now and be good?
Me and Masaba went for breakfast one particular morning, and I cannot tell you, we couldn't eat breakfast because only people kept coming to the table to talk to Masaba and tell her how much they love her collections. And it was
because you wore a cap and you were just like facing.
No, I loved it. I was so happy to just see. And there were some people who were not from the country. I remember one gentleman who was not from India, and he was wearing her shirt. And he just like came up and he was like, "Listen, look, I'm wearing your shirt." And it was a matter of great pride that today Indian designers, Indian work is everywhere. It's really being spoken about. It's being celebrated. It's being looked up to. So I think it's a great time for Indian people to be so proud of what they do, be it in fashion or anything else.
Before I go to the only other thing I feel we should talk about is men and fashion, right? I mean, that's
You tell us, Rajiv.
wrong person.
Why not a printed kitsch jacket?
I wish I had the courage. No, but it feels like men are really up the game as well. Our friend Vijay Verma is the red carpet darling. Just look at him. Do you feel like the game's been, the men are raising the bar as well?
I think they've always sort of been the bigger spenders, I mean, naturally, since the bigger earners. But the men's apparel market, Masaba will agree, has been like phenomenally huge. But in terms of design, in India, it's always been led by the women designers, by bridal wear. But now I see men have so much fun. I mean, I'm a big fan of how Vijay Verma dresses. I'm not looking at Tamannaah. I'm a big fan of how Ranveer dresses, and every actor today is sort of having fun on the red carpet with his Instagram. I mean, it's not just enough to have an amazing body and those fab abs. You also have to up your fashion game. And I love that, and I see that translating into regular people. A lot of grooms are not just showing up in like fab India kurtas or whatever's available. But effort is amazing, right? It's nice to sort of take effort to sort of dress up, whether you're going to work or you're getting married or you're a famous person. It's just nice to have, workwear, and I love the fact that men are having so much fun with it.
The one I have to ask, right? Who takes longer to dress up?
Actually, what do you think? If you know me a little bit, of course him. I take a least amount of time. I'm out in 10 minutes.
Okay, we'll open it out. If anyone has questions, you will raise your hand and we'll send a mic to you. The gentleman there, I think we can take maybe 3 questions. Can we send a mic to the gentleman there, or I can stand up and... just go for it.
Okay. So, I'm from Sri Lanka, from Colombo. So I'm currently heading the Colombo Fashion Council, and the session is really good and it was very enlightening about fashion and film, and we are a big fan of both of you. And Masaba, I think, was #1 TV show in Sri Lanka in Netflix. So we are big fan following there. So my question is about fashion conscious and sustainability. Now, as an actor, Tamannaah, do you think twice before you pick a garment from a designer to understand, or do you do a little bit of a background check to know how this garment is produced, or the animals are slaughtered, or is it coming from a sweatshop? How much conscious are you about that? And also, Masaba, how conscious are you about your production when it comes to sustainability and ethical fashion? Thank you.
So, for me, I think now I've made it a point that I have the most easiest wardrobe to manage. I've kept my personal clothing to the bare minimum because I realize I like to wear only 4 pants, and I keep rotating that like everybody else. And but for my work, yes, I keep needing different kind of clothes, and as and when I procure what I need. But in today's times, I've actually been interacting with a few designers closely, from Masaba to Rahul Mishra to Uभरत, Nita Lola, and I feel like they are people who have been so instrumental in putting out India on the world map. And I make sure, like when I was talking to Rahul, this previous collection itself was inspired by nature. So, and the superheroes were insects, for example, which I thought was a beautiful thought and idea. And just to know his idea of sustainability. So I'm actually educating myself while I'm also making choices where I take in only what I need and not excessively splurge on things that I don't think I can reuse. Because I feel like it can never be enough. So it's best to minimize what you can actually use and being conscious of that. Yeah.
I think for me, you're running the fashion label. To be very honest, it's very difficult to be 100% sustainable. If you see some of the largest brands in the world, including H&M, have pledged to be sustainable many, many years down the line. I'm talking about maybe a decade later. It's because one, it requires money, and two, it is something that is, the thing is, not being sustainable has actually penetrated so deep into fashion, into society, that we have to undo a lot of that. And that takes a lot longer than actually saying, I'd like to be a sustainable label. At a very basic level, as a brand, we make small changes every day to how we look at sustainability, and fashion is one of the biggest polluters of the world. We all know that. There's no denying that. Having said that, when we have all the waste fabric that's left over after a garment is made, we call it katran, it's just pieces of fabric that you can't really do anything with. We started to make little scrunchies and hairbands, so we make little scarves. We started to make masks during COVID. Out of that fabric, we started to also make sure there was a system of that waste to be picked up and recycled and made into something else. That was one. A couple of years back, I had the opportunity to tie up with the United Nations Environment Program, where we actually worked with them closely to understand single-use plastic, which is actually the single biggest polluter worldwide. And it's nothing, it's the plastic bag you use to go to the vegetable market to buy sabzi and fruit and whatever, and it's, the little things that you use every day, you just quickly discard it. So today, for example, even as a human being, when I'm going to a nature's basket to, stock up the house, I'm not taking a plastic bag. I'm consciously saying I will take the same muslin tote that I've been using over and over again. Having said that, coming back to the UNEP collection that we did, we made a collection of garments that, so for example, the sleeve could be zipped off and it would fold up and it would become a carry bag. So we had about, I think, a 20-25 piece collection that we did with them in collaboration to educate people about how single-use plastic is the biggest polluter. There are many different types of fabrics which are actually not as big polluters of the world as that. Another thing I'll tell you is in the beauty industry, there's a lot of noise about the cartons that go, that are shipped when you're buying a single lipstick. For example, you buy a lipstick that big and the carton is that big. Or you buy a nail paint that's that much and you have a carton that's that much. People can say things over and over again about how it shouldn't be that big a box and should be smaller, etc., etc. The fact of the matter is, if you don't have that big a box and you don't fill it up with bubble wrap and all these things to pad it, your product will come to you damaged. And we haven't reached there. My beauty products are, recyclable, the packaging. So I think in small ways we make amends, but to be 100% sustainable, it's a long journey and it's one that we've all embarked on. But I see that it's not something that can happen in the near future, and I don't want to just say it because it's a cool marketing gimmick, but it's a long journey and we've taken it on, and as and when we have the capital, as and when we have the means and we have the acceptance from consumers, we will take it head on.
Sorry, can I say something? I feel like India हमेशा से sustainable था. अगर आप पहले देखो जब हमारे बचपन में when we had I remember growing up, I used to wear my aunts and uncles' clothes. I used to love those big t-shirts. I used to take like my my family's clothes. I've grown up with that. And I think I do that today. Today I give my clothes, some of my designer wear to your family. And this is how एक आम आदमी ऐसे sustainable हो सकता है. ऐसा मतलब it is like Masaba said, on a business level it's a different ballgame altogether. There are so many aspects that are not something one can immediately do. But एक आम आदमी sustainable बहुत आसानी से हो सकता है अगर वो चाहे तो. तो I think जो हम पहले किया करते थे बचपन में, हम वही अगर आज भी करना शुरू करें तो it's very simple actually, उतना मुश्किल नहीं है.
If I can add, I don't think sustainability only means waste management. I mean, Indian fashion by its very nature is so dependent on craft, which is so dependent on artisans, whether they're embroiderers or weavers or dyers or printers. So Indian fashion, authentic Indian fashion is very, very sustainable in that so many people's livelihood depend on it. Rural industry sort of thrives on Indian fashion, right? And I think it's one of the most sustainable places to be. As for natural fabrics, I think it's the way to go, and cruelty-free in India actually means something else, because I'm a big advocate of leather. It is the most sustainable fabric that there is. It's one of the most sustainable materials. It lasts for decades, and anything you have that's pineapple leather or faux leather or anything will pretty much fall apart in 6 months and even maybe cost you as much, and you'll just be recycling or throwing that away. But if you see good quality leather shoes, you could wear them for a couple of generations.
Right, yes. My question is for you, Masaba. What's your take on EFE, India Fashion Week?
Okay. Well, it's such a great initiative. I think it's your 4th year.
Yes.
Am I right? Okay. It's your 4th year, and I think just for the limited amount of time that you guys have been doing this, and I think a panel discussion is always nice to add as a layer to the awards which are happening tomorrow. But I think it's always nice to have meaningful conversation with esteemed panelists and Rajiv himself as well, and talk about things that matter, talk about the future more importantly. And I think for not just for me, but I think for everybody here, it's been a big learning today to come here and just think about all the choices that we're making as creators or as consumers, or just as as an audience. So I think it's lovely, and thank you for having me.
Can we please have a round of applause for our panelists and our moderator? I would also now like to call on the stage Mr. Sanjay Nigam, founder, Fashion Entrepreneur Fund, to please come on the stage and present a small token of appreciation to our panelists and our moderator. Round of applause, ladies and a round of applause to Mr. Rajiv Masar, who is famous.
Ma'am, please close.
Yeah.
Sir, look here. Yeah. 1 minute. Yeah.
A round of applause for
Ma'am,
Mr.
Ma'am, look here.
Center.
Sir.
who is a renowned actor and has won accolades in Telugu, Tamil and
Ma'am, look here.
Camera look.
Sir.
Can we please have a round of
1 minute. 1 minute.
This is the acting and any for all of us here today.
Sir, look here.
Applause for
Sir.
Ms. Masaba Gupta, also very considerate.
Sir, yeah.
Sir, look here.
A round of applause,
Ma'am.
ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
And lastly, for Tamannaah Bhatia Masaba, who is a
Sir.
fashion critic.
वो आता दिया आवाज हाँ
Sir, look here. Please, group photo.
सर
Sir.
लिटिल क्लोज
Look here. Done.
कैन
Thank you so much for being here.
नमंदरी सोलो मैम कैन हमरे इथं थांब
इथेच थांबतो
नाही, पुढं जाऊ नको.
तू बिलकुल जाऊ नकोस उभा पण नको राहूस आता मीडियाला तुझा फोटो हायलाईट उद्या टाइम 7 डेज ऑफ टाइम की हा मध्ये आला आमचा दादा आहे सो मैम
आप दोनों
तीनों का मैम थोड़ा आगे आइए ना
मैम
हाँ बस 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 ओके यस रेडी
मैम लुक हियर
मैम यो
मैम
सिंगल
सोलो
या सिंगल यस मैम या मैम या
मैम
come on मैम थैंक यू मैडम यस मैम या थैंक यू सिंगल कर लो
कैमरा कैमरा कैमरा
बता दादा भाई कैमरा नीचे करो ना
चल फुल फ्रेम लेंगे आप फ्रेम लेते
ओके
मैम यो सोलो मैम
यो सोलो फोटो
ए सिंगल पिक्चर आप आपका ही रहेगा मैम या रेडी मैम यहाँ देखिए सेंटर या वेट थैंक यू
मैम व्हाट वुड यू लाइक टू
बहुत बढ़िया गया एंड राजीव सर
पकड़ना चाह
मोटिवेट करे थे पूरा पैनल मी मसाबा नम्रता वेरी वेल फैशन सो वी हैड अ ग्रेट पैनल बहुत सी बातें हुई फिल्मों के बारे में फैशन के बारे में सस्टेनेबिलिटी के बारे में बहुत लोगों को मज़ा आया मुझे बहुत मज़ा आया
मैम जब फैशन के बारे में बात होती है तो अब तक का ऐसा कोई स्टाइल आइकॉनिक या फिर फैशन जो आपको अब तक सबसे ज़्यादा पसंद आया
मुझे मेरिल स्ट्रीप बहुत पसंद है अब पहले से अभी
और व्हाट इज़ फैशन फॉर यू क्योंकि आप लोग सेलिब्रिटी लोग आपको फॉलो करते हैं तो आप उसे कैसे
इट्स अ वे ऑफ एक्सप्रेसिंग योरसेल्फ हमारी क्रिएटिविटी दर्शाने का एक और तरीका
मैम अपने अपकमिंग प्रोजेक्ट्स के बारे में कुछ
वो अगली बार हम मिलके बात करें
थैंक यू सो मच